Hey everyone, Maury Curtis Dunbar here. I am back. Thank you for your patience. My customer left happy and taken care of. Now let's see if I can find myself on my page again, or if this is going to be one of those moments where I'm just going to have to hope I can find something. Let's see. Maybe I'm just going to have to hope I go live. We'll see. We're just going to see what happens here. And then as soon as I can find myself on my page, I will answer questions and say hello to people. Okay, so if you remember just a moment ago, we did our first skeleton head here, and we used our groovy kaleidoscope foil. It had a terrific release. I'm very, very pleased with that, almost 100%. You look at this piece of foil, you can see just how well it released. So now I talked enough earlier. We're going to just come down here, go down to our skeleton, and we're going to keep on keeping on foiling. And I think, yay, I show up again. So now I can find myself. I can see you all. Thank you for waiting for me. I appreciate this. Now, as I said before, this is all primed with set coat. Then every other head I put on foil adhesive so that I can get good, clean, and clear releases on the skeleton heads. And then we will put Artsyville foil adhesives on the ones that we don't release today and get a great final result there. So now I have to decide which order I'm putting the colors in. And I think what I'm going to do is go orange here, then purple, then green, or I'll go green, then purple, then orange. We're going to use our purple tie-dye on here. Another terrific foil. Get a nice sized piece of that so it covers the entire skeleton face. And again, you got to remember to tape up the rolls, otherwise they go rolling all over the place. Okay, we're back here. Let's set this down gently so I can smooth it out. And again, I like to do the first pass with just my bare hand. The heat from my hand definitely helps warm the foil to the surface. And as we are getting towards cooler weather, you know that's going to be important. And I take my bigger scrub brush. I could use my small one, but because the wood on this is just a little coarse, I'm using the big scrub brush because it gives a little more aggressive pressure. The bristles are stiffer, so it goes at it a little more strongly. And if you ever find these scrub brushes, these old heavy-duty ones where the bristles are super stiff, if you're a foiler, grab them, because the ones that they're making now, the bristles are really soft and they're not as good for foiling. They may be better for your bathtub and stuff if you don't have a tiled bathtub like we have. I think they put a fitter in the house that we're in right now over, the vinyl kind of overlays in there, and they scratch a little bit, so they use softer stuff now. So let's see how our release is going. Oh, that's good. And again, terrific release on this. I have a little spot right here that I want to kind of just put my finger in, get that covered, and a little spot right there that I'm going to put my finger in and get that covered. But look at how beautiful that release is. And again, you look at the back of my foil. When you put the unattractive side down to the surface, that's what You peel it back, you get this great release. So I'm very, very pleased. And we're going to set this one aside for the moment, and we'll put foil adhesive on it in the blank ones. But we're going to go on to our pumpkins right away, because, you know, the foiling's always a lot more fun to watch than the the applying of the foil adhesive. All right, so these pumpkins, and I'm going to do both sides again because I painted both sides, so I can do pumpkins on both sides, just like I'm going to do the skulls on both sides. So now I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. And these pumpkins, I think I'm going to do in kind of orangey metallics. So we had some fun patterns that I chose. We have muted gold from V-Mask. We have this beautiful copper slade. We have the cracked copper. We have terracotta. And what is this one? I can't remember. Stonewashed gold. So they're going to all have this sort of nice orangey, but I think what I'm going to do is I'll do every other one these sort of stone textures. So we'll go start the top with the copper slade. Now, if you all are familiar with V-Mask, V-Mask likes to curl back on itself, so be aware of that. V-Mask usually has a darker backing than many of our other brighter, more colorful foils because this is not a fabric-friendly foil, so the backing is just a little different. We've got Artsyville foil adhesive on this one, and then the one that's off camera, you can't see it yet. And so we're going to do our pumpkins like this. So here's this one. Again, setting it down carefully, trying to smooth it out. Now, V-Masks release very easily. I mean, surprisingly easily. You might actually have a little over-release on them, meaning that you might see a little flakes along the edge. That's not unusual. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the difference in the product. And if you're not familiar with foil, when we lay it down, we lay the not pretty side down to the adhesive because the pattern is actually mounted on a film. And then when you put it to the adhesive, you peel this back sort of like a temporary tattoo. And the pattern is released like that. So look at that great pattern on there. And yeah, there's a little bits of flakies right here. And that's very common with V-Mask. So you just go in and, you know, wipe them down. So let's put that one there. And then I think we'll do, on our middle one, my table is long enough for this, but there's so much stuff that you can't see on this table, including all the rolls of foil, that it makes it a little challenging to move the pumpkins around. We're going to then use our copper crackle for this middle one. I'm sticking within an orangey theme for these pumpkins, but I thought having them kind of stony was kind of an interesting look. Not everybody wants them bright and candy colored. Some people want them a little more toned down, a little more neutral. So we're going to go with that this way. But we might turn it over and do brightly colored ones on the other side. Don't be surprised. Or we might do animal prints on one of them. I think I had that in my head for one of them. Now remember, when you're doing foils, you don't want to scrub in circles. You want verticals and horizontals because there is a chance that you're not going to get a really perfect release, and you don't want to see this swirly scrubbing marks on there. You want to see it in verticals and horizontals simply because that's what looks best. Look how beautifully that's releasing. Oh, yep. And again, there's these little tiny bits around the edges that just need to get knocked off. A little spot right there that I need to get into with my fingernail. And a little spot right there. But look how great this looks. Oh, I'm so impressed. I love how this foil releases. All right, now on the bottom one. Now these will all be sealed with an exterior grade sealant so that they can be placed outside if you want to. And that's going to make a difference because our terracotta that we're going to use on the bottom one is very, very matte when it releases. But to keep it in the same shine as the other ones, I'm going to have to put a gloss top coat on it. Otherwise, this one's going to look like I did something wrong. Now, this is one of the few ones that's got a lighter colored backing on it. Let's cut a piece of this. Put my tape back on my roll. I love this matte terracotta. It's really beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to lay that over here. And again, not so pretty side to the adhesive. Let's give it a rub with my hands. And see, when it comes whitish like this, that actually means that the foil is adhering to the surface and the film that it's mounted on is releasing. It's like those bubbles I was saying before. That's just, this is an easier way for you all to see it on camera. And this is a good thing. Seeing that is always going to make you happy because it means that your foil is releasing really, really nicely. Okay, look how beautiful that is. Now, if I didn't have other glossy foils above this, just doing this in the matte terracotta and then putting a matte finish over it would be gorgeous. I love that. But because we do have other shinier metals on here, you know, we have the cracked copper and the green copper slate. We do need to make them all look right because otherwise this is going to look funny, not having the same shine. And all I need to do is put a glossy top coat on it. So the next thing I'm going to do is then come back in and we're going to use our Artsyville foil adhesive. As you know, this is one of my studio jars. This is not one of the quarts like you get if you order from us. I take a gallon and I pour it into quart jars so that it's a little more manageable for me here in the studio. And then I'm going to take a paintbrush and we're going to apply more foil adhesive, and we're going to get our other pumpkins and we're going to get our other skulls. And I'm going to let this set up for a little while, and then I'll probably come back and we'll complete foiling it and sealing it after they've set up for an hour. So I'll be here for a little while tonight. So I'll do this one and then I'm going to do a later live. All right, let's come in here. Now I'm going to tell you something. When I do these myself, not on the table, I actually kind of hold it up this way. And I know this is an awkward angle for you all to see it, but I prop it against my lap so that it's an easier way for me just to get all the brush strokes going in the right direction. Excuse me. And if I find that I'm having a little bit of grab or it's starting to set up faster than I'm ready for it to set up, and I don't worry about getting foil adhesive in where I'm not foiling, because I will seal that up with top coat later. But if I'm finding things are starting to dry a little fast, I just take one of these little misters. I got this with a hair product, but you can get them on Amazon, and come back, and just that little tiny bit of water is enough to loosen up the way this spreads. I've even misted the product, like misted my brush, just to get it to spread a little easier, because as we know, Artsyville foil adhesive is thick. So however you brush it on or however you apply it, it's going to leave a little texture behind. And you cannot thin this like you do a lot of products. If you add a lot of water to this, if you add more than 2 to 5% water, it will start losing its really nice, strong adhesive quality to it. So let's come back here. And I work mine a little bit. I don't just brush it on once. I want to work it so that I get it as smooth as I possibly can. And then I get rid of any dribbles if I can. Be patient. This can take a little muscle because this is a thick product and it's a little on the sticky side and it wants to start setting up fairly quickly, which is a good thing for when you want to use it. But it means that your brush can go through it a little slower and you have to pull a little harder. You know, don't be sparing with this either. Be fairly generous, not so much that it's thick and gooey and dribbly, but make sure you get a good even coating on here. Because if it's not even, you don't get a good even foil release. And then this has to set and dry for a minimum of an hour. And after that hour, it will have most likely reached its perfect tack, unless you're in super humid areas. Then let it dry for a little while more. How do you know it's the right tack? It will feel sticky if you put your knuckle against it, but it won't feel gummy. If you don't wait for this to set up long enough, not only won't it release the foil, but it'll bond with the foil, and when you peel the foil off, it might actually take the paint off of your surface. I've had that happen. I've actually had it happen on a live when I was forcing paints and stuff to dry in our hot box. But once it's reached its peak tack, it stays that way forever. You could come back in a year and it would still be tacky enough to release foil on it. Dusty, but tacky enough. So let's get our other pumpkin in here. We check and see if there's any questions. Well, everybody seems to get this pretty darn well. We do a lot of foil adhesive here, so foil and foil adhesive, so this should be pretty darn familiar to you. And of course, any questions you have, feel free to ask. There is no such thing as a dumb question, because if you're not understanding what I'm saying, it has nothing to do with you. It means that I didn't get the information to you in a way that you're understanding, so I have to try it again. Because what makes sense in my head and comes out of my mouth isn't always what makes sense to other people. The reason this is wobbling a little bit because I have a gazillion rolls of foil on the table next to me, and they're propping this up right now. As you can see, I try to get all my brush strokes going the same way just because I find that looks better. If I did this and then half kind of did that, all those brush strokes show in the end. So I want to make sure my brush strokes are nice and smooth and even. I prefer a good quality nylon brush like this to a regular paintbrush, because paintbrush bristles are a little thicker, so they don't lay everything out as nicely. And I don't like using a sponge brush because I find that this product pulls on a surface and you can actually shred your sponge brush in it. I think the paintbrushes leave, a good paintbrush leaves the nicest pattern behind. And you don't want little pieces of black shredded sponge brush in there. Now, if I was going to use a sponge brush, usually for sponge brushes, I use it to stipple on a surface. So I'm pouncing it like this instead of brushing. And there are times that I want that pounce texture. I did it for something recently. Don't ask me what, I can't remember. I'm lucky I remember my name today. Being a puppy grandma last night. Ugh. Little guy woke up and then wants to play. 3 o'clock in the morning, he wants to do laps around the living room and play. And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. Oh, that's not how we do things. So he kept us up a little bit last night, but he's so cute. All right, the last part of this that has to be done right now is just the cap right here of the pumpkin. And I love this pumpkin thing. It's very cute. It could easily get to be too cutesy because they didn't do any scary faces on the pumpkins, which is why I thought it would be fun to do it with these stone patterns. I thought that might kind of take the cutesy edge off of it, but yeah, I'll probably do the other side in a more colorful manner. Okay, so that one's done. We're going to set it over to the side. Let him set up for an hour. Fix the spot where I just stuck my thumb. And then I'm going to pull the skulls over. We're going to put the Artsyville foil adhesive on this one as well. And let him set up for an hour too. Let these set up for another hour and we'll come back, foil those. And then we'll talk about what we're going to do on the back. All right. Now, while painting these was a pain in the neck because I had to go in through all the openings to get the black in there so we didn't have a lot of light colored wood showing. Putting the foil adhesive on the skull shapes is really very easy because it's such an easy shape to work with. They're kind of long. They have plenty of open space to work on. They're not ridged like the pumpkins are. Just got to watch the teeth area. I had planned to do this last night, but then I had to go home and play with my grandpuppy. He is cute as can be. About 3 pounds of miniature dachshund. He's the cutest little thing. And he was very timid the first night we brought him home. Or the first night my stepdaughter brought her over. But today he's been bossing around the older dogs, and it's really funny because they don't know what to do. They're like, what the heck is this little thing? Let's get in there with the back end of the brush. That's not going to reach. I don't think my finger quite fits. Yeah, almost. I'll get in there and get that blob out that I don't want in there. I'm going to take a little mist. Put a little mist on my brush too. That just softened it up a little bit so my brush wasn't dragging quite so hard through it. Put a little more right here so come up in here. All right. And then we got our bottom one to do, and he is the last one to do. What is under everything? Oh, I see what it is. It's the scrub brush. Why was that messing with me? All right, let's get this one. Now the one side, I picked these up at Michael's, and last year they had the coffin, they had the skull, and they had this one that had just sort of a little pumpkin at the top and then a long black board. And if you remember, I did those, I don't know if you saw them last year, but I did those as autumn and harvest signs. And those were very popular with my customers last year. And so I'm a little disappointed that they didn't do those again this year, but the pumpkin sign is a new one. So that should go over well with my customers as well. But I like these. I like these. They did Christmas ones, and I did a Nutcracker one last year. It's been a tradition in our family to give nutcrackers. My mother gave each child each of her grandchildren a nutcracker every year. And my son said, 25, that's enough. He's got a little nutcracker army. So his final one, I did one of these signs, which was a nutcracker shape for him, for his final nutcracker. And he loves it. So this year I may do the nutcrackers for the other niece and nephew. Since my mother is no longer with us, I kind of picked up the tradition, so they would always have their nutcrackers, and they're all stopping at 25. If I have to stop with my child, I have to stop with all children at 25, because otherwise I'll be doing them in the nursing home. All right, let's flip the camera up. There we go. All right, everyone. I think I turned it some weird way. All right, everyone. Thank you for spending some time with me. Thank you for your patience. As I went on the wrong page to do a live, as I had customers come in while I was doing a live, and then after all of that, I had trouble getting the camera on. So a quick reminder, again, product of the month are our transfers. So save 20% off of all of our transfers, the deer, the florals, the sea creatures, the bugs, all of them. Transfers are 20% off with code transfer20. Next week, I'm going to be down at the Society of Guilders convention. I'll try to do a couple lives from there, or at least take some short videos from the things that we're doing. And I will not be here tomorrow, but I'm going to come back in about an hour. When these are done, we'll talk about doing the backs, and then I'll be back on Friday. So I will talk to you again later, everybody. Thanks for stopping in. Bye-bye.